Hey, folks, we are back with Taylor Bradford of the Gloucester Daily Times to check in once again on all things going on locally. How you doing, Taylor?
I'm doing well. How about you, Corey?
I'm doing great. Okay, you had another busy week. We start off on a bit of a sad note here, and the vandals at Clark Cemetery in Gloucester.
Yeah, so when Richard and Kathy Clark went to the cemetery on Sunday, they found that headstones had been toppled over, destroyed, split in half, and pieces were missing. And it's such a tragedy on any day, but for this couple, it's even more of a tragedy because for years they have been working on restoring the headstones in Clark Cemetery, and they've been working really hard. So there's a police report, and again, this is something that they and the city are actively trying to mitigate the amount of vandalism and also partying that is happening over at Clark Cemetery. And for those two particular headstones, one was a gentleman that they had researched a lot about, and the other was a family member of Richard. So two really close people to their hearts. And as they look to restoring the work that had been vandalized, it'll take Richard about 15 to 20 hours to now do. So things that he'd already been doing, putting pieces together, gluing them, getting them ready for that restoration process. And so it's a really sad story, but I think it's also a story of hope and remembrance of just how important these cemeteries are here in the city. We have so many different cemeteries, but the reason why this one is very special is that it's an historic cemetery. These are, people who have deceased long ago, but they have huge significance within the city, within the military. And it is, Richard and Kathy and other, volunteers at DPW, their mission to preserve this. And I think the Clark story is a really interesting one because they had retired a couple of years back and they had a condo in Hawaii. And they actually decided to sell their condo in Hawaii and move here to Cape Ann, to the North Shore, to really work on preservation of this cemetery full time. And so most days you can see them, Kathy is cataloging the history and restoring, and Richard is restoring and putting pieces back together. And so they're a tag team with other volunteers within the community who's trying to do the good work of restoring and honoring these people who have passed and making it a beautiful place. And they said, when they first came about 5 years ago, there was just vegetation everywhere. And now it's freshly cut, and they're trying to get all the different things, all the weeds out of the way, and making things a really beautiful place, not only for the people who visit, but to honor those who lie there. So it's again a story of hope and of restoration, as well as a sad story of just kind of the reality of what happens here in the city when people are just being negligent.
Yeah, and the Clarks are awesome people. They've been doing that work for years, and it is not easy. So hats off to them. And if you want to chip in, folks, Clark Cemetery is part of the First Parish Burial Ground, which is the oldest cemetery in Gloucester. I think it's from 1644. The Clark Cemetery is from a couple of hundred years later and is the resting spot of a lot of Civil War veterans. So that's where that is, the old oval right off of Centennial Ave. So, okay, great stuff, Taylor. St. Peter's Novena.
Yeah, so the Novena, St. Peter's Fiesta might not be happening this year, but the Novena is for sure happening, which is really exciting for here in the city. And so they're going to be starting that up on Monday. It's going to be an online virtual novena. So for people who are wanting to participate, note that you can go to St. Peter's Novena Gloucester MA on YouTube to find that information. And that will be recorded. It's a 9-day event. So just note that you can go onto it for the 9 days. And that also a little fun note that Joe Novella had told me the other day is that if you think about the St. Peter statue has been sitting, idle for so many months, years, even as we kind of mourn the loss of St. Peter's Fiesta for the past couple of years, that will be making a debut appearance at Mass at St. Anne's Church on the Saturday within that time frame. So just note that will be coming up. I believe it is
the 26th, Taylor, Saturday, June 26th.
Yeah, the 26th. So that will be coming up. So just note that if you want to say St. Peter's statue, that Father Jim will be dedicating that Mass to St. Peter on that day. So that information is there and on our website to stay tuned and go to YouTube definitely to watch that.
Very nice story there. Okay, and lastly, bittersweet news from Veterans Memorial.
Yeah, so the past couple of weeks have just been celebration of the end of school for so many, and for the students and the faculty and staff over at Veterans, it means goodbye to a building. As we know that the city is planning to have a combined elementary school of East Gloucester and Veterans over at 11 Webster Street, where Veterans currently is. And so if all things go well, that means that the Veterans building will be demolished as they build that new school. And so the veterans community will be moving to St. Anne's for 2 years as they do that construction work. And so that means that, they all have to pack up and head on out. And so as the people or staff and students are getting ready for the summer, they're also getting ready to say goodbye to that building. So Paul Bilodeau and I had the opportunity to go and spend a little bit of time with the students and staff on their last day of school, and what a special experience it was. To speak with teachers who had been there for 27 years, administrators who had been students there. And for the kids, that was probably my favorite part, was just asking the kids what their favorite part of school was, what their excitements are about kind of the future. For the little kids, they're, excited to go to St. Anne's. Honestly, one kid said the only downside is that the bathroom will be on the first floor and he'll be on the third floor. I think that's what he said. He said, that's my biggest concern, but he said, I'm really excited. Others, the fifth graders, we're the last fifth grade class, and we feel like it's the end of the world. And I said, don't worry, kids, you've got a few more years in school left. But they said it's been feeling like home to them. I know, very
You're
dramatic.
next door to Holy Cow Ice Cream in the Yellow Sub Shop. They're going to be fine.
I know. Well, the fifth graders won't be. They'll be moving on to middle school or wherever else they'll be. And so they said, it's been home for them for the past 6 years, and they're really grateful. And I think the ongoing sentiment that I heard throughout the day was it's not about the four walls. It's not about the building. It's about the teachers, the dedication, the students, the family, the friends, and the learning. And so while I'm sure that we'll be covering more about the combined school and the project and all that will be happening, that really wasn't the focus of this day. The focus was just the gratefulness of, I think, a conclusion of a hard year, but also just the a sense of gratefulness from everybody of just how much everyone has come together to support one another within this year and the years to come.
Well, cheers to the staff and students at Veterans Memorial. Great job once again, Taylor. We'll catch up with you next week.
Have a great weekend, guys. Bye.